Hello there, it's Gina Gardiner here and welcome to Gina Gardiner and Friends. I have a great guest for you. It's Francis West and he knows everything there is to know about cybersecurity. He is known as the superhero of cybersecurity. Now you might wonder, what is cybersecurity and why do I need to listen to that? And it doesn't matter whether you're a business or you are somebody who is not in business, who's just your personal life. You really need to listen to this guy because he could save you a shed load of money and a whole amount of aggravation. And I'm very privileged to count him as one of my friends. So, Francis, welcome, welcome.
Good. Hi, Gina. And let me start by saying thank you very much for having me on again, because you know my mission, and my mission is to educate and protect at least 1 million people by 2023. And I know every time I come on your show and you broadcast it, hopefully the people will listen and take the advice that we're going to share today, just to take that extra precaution, because in my world, prevention is the only cure.
I couldn't agree with you more. Just for those who might be a bit confused, I had Francis as my guest on a different TV and radio show. I'm just so pleased to have you here because I think the subject matter is incredibly important. But before we go on, can you just share with the listeners your story, how you came into cybersecurity and why is it so important to you that you have this amazing mission?
Gina, I'll try and give you the short version. I've been in the IT game for about 32 years now, so I run two companies. I've got an IT support company and also now a cybersecurity company, which I've been running for about 3 years. And I work with an amazing team of people. But if I rewind probably about 13, 14 years ago, I got involved with an investor. And I'll give you the short version. Sadly, this guy's only intention was to get me out of my own business that I built up over 18 years.
Goodness me.
And what happened in the end, the only way they could get me out was to put what we call a keylogger, which records all my keystrokes, onto my work computer. And every time I logged onto my home personal computer at home, they captured my login details from my personal email account.
Goodness.
And what I was doing from my personal account, I was emailing my client saying, listen, I'm having a really tough time with this investor of mine, and he's making my life an absolute misery. And can you help me? So, of course, what happened was when they saw these emails, they actually printed them out, and what was interesting is when I was called into my own boardroom, I was sat down and said, you've put this company in disrepute and we are immediately dismissing you without any pay. And I was literally taken by my arm and walked out by somebody that worked for me for many, many years, because she was promoted as the managing director. I was supposed to be the CEO, but that's another story. So, but then what happens was I then got home. I was so relieved because the amount of pain I went through those 18 months was undescribable. And then what happened was I got involved with, I found, I asked a lot of people for help, and I said, this can't be, surely they can't do this to me. And I started doing research, and I found that they broke the Computer Misuse Act of 1990 in 11 different places. Then I got the police involved, and the police just did absolutely nothing. They came to my house 4 times, and I showed it to them in black and white what happened, because I had a copy of the printouts. Yes. That they took illegally from our home computer. So this stuff became very personal to me, and dealing with, only last week we dealt with 7 different cases. And sadly, most people or companies that we meet are not even 5% adequately protected, against cybercrime. And this stuff is very personal. Last week, we got a new client who's a very famous chef. I won't mention her name. And her Instagram account was hacked. Now, she's been building up those followers for years and years and years and years. And we're still working on the case, but they got into an email account, they got into a Facebook account. They've made that lady's life a misery. She's literally, as we're speaking here now, at a doctor seeking, mental health, because it's almost destroyed her reputation. So I'm hoping, praying by this evening or by tomorrow, we would have access back to her Instagram account. But this stuff is so everlasting, because especially the reputational damage, because what these hackers are doing now with the Instagram account, they're posting, things about Bitcoin scams. So many people, all her followers, would think that it's her and invest in these scams, and of course lose thousands and thousands of pounds. So all I want to do is, the more I learn about this stuff, I just want to put my cybersecurity blanket around people, because the effects that it has on families, on business, it's lasts forever. I ask people, what's the difference between suffering from a burglary at home or suffering from cybercrime? A burglary, insurance pays out, you get your new TV or whatever that's been stolen, and your life goes on. With cybercrime, I've got so many case studies that we can share, but the business owners, and not just the business owners, but I'll give you another case study. This lady who's been working with a building firm, she's been head of accounts, and she's been working there for 30 years. So last year, by mistake, she clicked on a link and she fell for an invoice scam, and she lost £47,000 for the business. Now, I don't know anybody that can afford to lose £47,000. And subsequently, she's been off work for 6 months. The woman has gone through so much trauma. And I'll tell you why it happened, because number one, they didn't have any email security in place to stop that email getting into her inbox in the first place. And number two, there was no training in place either, just to create awareness around the subject within the business. And this is what we see day in and day out. And it makes me sad, because there's so many uncertainties in the world right now, but the one thing we can control is our cybersecurity.
I've got personal experience going back probably about 6 or 7 years. I'd spent a lot of time building up my Facebook following. And suddenly I was hacked in, and they went into Facebook, LinkedIn, and so on. Got the LinkedIn back very quickly. But with Facebook, they had gone in and changed the password. So all of the requests for new, I've forgotten your password or whatever, went to the hackers. I spent hundreds and hundreds of pounds with experts trying to get things sorted out. I didn't know you in those days. And eventually got to speak to somebody at Facebook who said, there's nothing we can do. We can only deal with the people who've got your account.
Yeah.
And so I had to start again. So that caused all sorts of problems over months. I then started a new account and then started to build it up. And then 5 years, almost to the day, the account popped back up, causing yet more problems with Facebook, because they're saying, you've got 2 accounts, and they were getting confused between the 2 accounts. And it caused all sorts of difficulty then. And we found a way around it, but it's still not actually resolved. So I think it's one of those situations that everybody thinks it won't happen to me.
Yes.
But just yesterday, speaking to a neighbor, her brother, not in business, somebody has hacked into all of his accounts, and he can't actually get to do anything. Moreover, he's had to change all his bank account details, all his card details, because they got into a situation where they had access to his details financially. It's scary stuff.
It's very scary, and it's all avoidable.
Talk us through, what is it you can do, and how does that work if you are in the UK or somewhere else in the world?
Gina, like you said just before our break, this is a global problem. Hackers and scammers goes after the size of vulnerabilities, not the size of how many people in your company or sitting at home. And there's so many things that you can do to create, I call it, if you think about an onion, it's about layers.
Yes.
It's all about the more layers you have. There's a lovely saying, there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing when you go for a walk. If you dress properly, you won't get cold or wet. And cybersecurity works on exactly the same principle. And there are very inexpensive things you can do, and then there are things that you can invest in to make it much, much better. So we now have clients in 12 countries, so we don't mind where they are, because they're all using a PC or Mac. And let me just do a quick myth buster here. The thing about, a lot of people say, but I've got a Mac, it's secure. It is so untrue. We've dealt with a lady only a couple of weeks ago who lost $800,000 in Canada because they got onto a Mac.
Just say that figure again.
$800,000.
Wow.
So they got onto a Mac, planted a piece of software that did a pop-up. She then believed that this was a proper investment scam because, again, she was using Chrome, not Safari, on a Mac. And I tell you what, when we installed our security software on a Mac, it took us 2 hours to clean it up. Normally we clean it up within the first 30 minutes or so. It took us 2 hours. We've never seen anything like it. And the lady is 80 years old, but she was referred to us by her daughter-in-law. Now, you can imagine, just to think about this further, that £800,000 was probably, all the inheritance gone, very far gone. Now, of course, she's got all the layers of security, which I'll discuss in a minute, which now she feels safe. She's not worried anymore. She's sleeping much better. But so let's start there. For me, there are 5 key areas that any individual or business needs to look at. Number 1 is password security. The second thing is computer security. The third, email security. Number 4, backup and recovery. Number 5, training. If you put those 5 layers in place, you are immediately making yourself at least 99.99% less attractive to any scam or hacker. Why? Because they go after easy targets. And you're going to laugh now. I was in my workshop the other day. I like building stuff from pallets.
I do.
And I said to Alexa, how many small businesses are there in the UK? And she said 4.89 million between 1 and 49 staff or people.
Yeah.
So you can imagine that's just in the UK. So if we replicate that to the US or to any other country, it's phenomenal. So whether you a one-man person, working from home, or you just a nurse, or just, doesn't matter, or a hairdresser that's using a computer or an iPhone or a smartphone, you are also a target. So let's start with the password security. The biggest reason why, you said earlier, why people get into people's accounts is as follows. What happens is, people subscribe to Garmin and to Netflix and to Amazon and to all these different online accounts. In the old days, we used to have 1 or 2 or 3. Now people have 30, 40 different accounts. And the problem is that when those big companies are hacked or compromised, their databases with all their members' email addresses and passwords are then sold on the dark web. And the dark web...
I was going to say, can you explain what the dark web is? Because some people might not know what that means.
100%. So the dark web in the old days was actually used for good things. Today, it's used for where you can buy child pornography, you can buy AK-47s, you can buy any drug of choice, and you can have it delivered to your house this afternoon, any country. So you can imagine, if your data becomes for sale in that environment, it's a problem. And then most people do not have any monitoring set up, so they don't even know that their Facebook email address and password is now for sale. And the following then happens. What they do is they'll use that email address and that password, and they'll run what we call bots, in other words, automated systems, to test all the different accounts that you had, and even the ones you've forgotten about. So now they've just logged onto your Twitter account, your Facebook account, your LinkedIn account, your email, Gmail account, your Yahoo account. Why? Because you were using the same password for all your different accounts. And that's why the moment you start deploying what I call an enterprise password manager, the first thing it does when you import all your existing passwords from your Chrome or your Safari browser, which, by the way, is the most unsecure place to store your passwords, it then runs a check against the dark web, and it tells you within 24 hours, say, listen, Gina, all these passwords currently are compromised and you need to go and change them.
Right.
What the password manager does, it generates a complete random 20-digit password for the user. And just to give you an idea, a 20-digit password on average will take about 3 sextillion years to crack. A 8-digit password today will take less than 1 hour to crack. Okay.
That's just amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. So you can see, and that figure is coming down. So that's why, sadly, if people say, that lovely saying, people say, why do we live longer? We live longer because of early detection. Do you agree?
I agree, yes.
The same logic applies with cybersecurity. In other words, if you have the right tools in place that can detect a breach and then either fix it or at least alert you of it, you can then take action.
Right.
And again, the beauty about a password manager is you'll never have to ever remember more than one password. And that one password is the one to get in. And I recommend that password should be a sentence. Yeah, so what we would do, when people come to our website, they would subscribe, and we obviously back that with our internal service team. And then we'll actually install the password manager for them. We'll teach them how to use it. We'll teach them best practices, and also we'll teach them how to set up multi-factor authentication for all their accounts. And what that means is it's based on something you know and something you have. So you know your username. Well, you've got your password and your password manager, but the multi-factor authentication code only lasts for 30 seconds. And never, ever repeats itself. So, of course, the password, the multi-factor authentication now sits inside your password manager. You can literally watch it roll after 30 seconds and a new one is generated. And if you think about the banks have been doing this for years. You know those little card machines where you stick in the car your debit or your credit card, you punch in a number, it generates a new number, and then you type that number in on the screen when you log into your bank. It's the same logic, same logic. And then, of course, what happens is that unless somebody is standing right next to you you've got your phone in front of you with your password manager running, with your multi-factor authentication code running, there's 99.99% they will not be able to get into your Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter account. It is that simple. But most people don't even know that these things exist. So for me, it is the other way you can do it as well, which is free. If you download what they call the Microsoft Authenticator app from your app store, and it works across any mobile device, you can use that to generate the codes for you as well. It's a brilliant app. I've been using it for many, many years. And the way you set this up, because people would probably know how to set this up, either they can email me or send me a message on LinkedIn, or go onto YouTube and say, how do I set up my multi-factor authentication code for Facebook? How do I do it for Twitter? How do I do it for my WhatsApp account? How do I do it for my Instagram account? And there'll be 50 or 100 or 1,000 videos taking you through step-by-step how to do it.
Now, if they want to talk to you, where can they find you?
They can either find me on LinkedIn, which is Francis West. You'll see my face, and you'll see cybersecurity specialist on my tagline for small businesses, or you can send me an email if you want, Francis with an I.W at security-everywhere.com, or they can find me on Twitter. I'm all over the internet, because it's the more people we can help, the better. Or they can phone my office, which is anywhere in the world, +44 203 195 0555.
That's brilliant. Thank you. We are coming towards the end of the show, and I know that there's so much more we can talk about. I'll have to have you back again.
We've covered one of the 5 subjects.
Just one. So you'll have to come back so we can cover some of the others, because this is just so important. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you very much for listening. Do join us on the next show. I have so many wonderful people who can join me. And Francis, as always, I'm eternally grateful for your help. Thank you very much.
Huge pleasure, Gina. Let's hope we've protected a few more people.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.